Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar introducing you to Read and Write for exams. I'll just introduce myself first of all. I'm Anna, and I work within the Education Division at TextHelp. We want to ensure that you're making the best use of Read and Write throughout the exam period. So I thought I would just pull up this slide first of all before we get started. So for anybody that's familiar with GoToWebinar, you may already be aware of how to do this, but because of the nature of today's webinar, with quite a few members joining, everybody's in listen-only mode, so everybody's microphone will be muted today. So this means that if you have a question throughout the webinar, then you can ask this by typing your question into this little panel at the bottom and then pressing send. I'll get a notification on my end to let me know that somebody has asked a question, and I'll probably stop around about the middle of the webinar today, and then I'll hang around for about 10 minutes or so at the end of the webinar as well to answer any questions that anybody has. Today we're going to look at how Read and Write can be used during exams, including which features can be used in an exam and which features can be used to prepare for exams. We will also look at how to set up Read and Write for exams using exam mode. Read and Write can be used as a digital exam reader and is allowed to be used in exams which test reading where a human reader is not permitted. The features we'll cover today are the PDF reader, text-to-speech, screen masking, which will apply a coloured overlay to your screen, and the scanning feature, which is used in the preparation of exam papers. A computer reader is an acceptable arrangement since it allows the candidate to independently meet the requirements of the reading standard. You'll also be able to open the question paper 90 minutes prior to the exam starting. During this time, you will need to use the scanning feature within Read and Write, so the exam paper has gone through OCR, or optical character recognition, to ensure that the entire PDF exam paper is accessible and can be read aloud. Exam mode in Read and Write for Windows allows the teacher or admin to turn Read and Write toolbar features on or off for exams, as we know that not all of the features on the Read and Write toolbar would be permitted in an exam environment. Exam mode can be used to turn features off for one student on a particular computer where they will take an exam, or advanced exam mode can be used to turn off features for large numbers of computers or for users on your network. You would also be able to set up a date range within advanced exam mode for it to be enabled automatically and then disabled as well. So for example, if you know you have exams from the 10th of December until the 12th of December, you can set exam mode to automatically turn on the 10th and automatically turn off again on the 12th. When exam mode is enabled, the student will only have access to the exam approved features on the toolbar. These will be text-to-speech, the screen mask, and the PDF reader. Students will also have access to the speech settings, including voice selection, speed, pitch, and speak as I type. The full settings menu will not be accessible. So let's take a look at all of this in action. I'll move away from my presentation now. And you can see I have opened up a Word document that a school might use on the subject of motion. So the features that I plan to cover in today's webinar are the features within Read and Write that you'll use within an exam and used in the setup of these features for exams. So we'll begin with the play icon, including how to set up the voice and dual highlighting colours. This is then transferred across so that the same settings are used within the PDF reader. To give you a demonstration of the voice reading some text, I'll just simply click at the beginning of this first sentence, followed by the play icon.
The concept of motion is described by using terms like velocity, speed, distance, and acceleration. For a moving body, speed is the quantity by which we know how fast the body is moving.
And I'll just press stop there. So you'll have noticed, as well as hearing the voice reading that text aloud, you'll have noticed the dual highlighting colours, which are there to aid tracking and processing of text. So the first step that your students will have to do within the Read and Write toolbar will be to set up the voice and dual highlighting colours which match their own individual needs. Within the very latest version of Read and Write, all of the settings are stored in the Settings menu over at the right-hand side of the toolbar. With a single click on the Settings menu, we'll have access to some of these quick access settings. But to gain access to the full settings menu, I'll click Show More Settings. So as we want to change the speech, we'll click into the Speech tab on the left-hand side, and this will give us access to all of the voice selection. So from this first drop-down, I can select these voices from all of the voices that I've downloaded from our Essentials site. So I can change this now to a female voice. You can increase or decrease the speed of the voice. That's a particularly important one to get right for your students. And you can also introduce a word pause between words, and you can increase or decrease the pitch of the voice as well. Any adjustments that you make, you can test using the test voice box.
This is your new voice. Is it okay?
And I'll scroll down again within the speech settings. We're still in this section on the left-hand side. So you can see I've selected read by paragraph. I could change this to read by word or read by sentence. If I select read by sentence, for example, the text reader will stop reading at the end of a sentence. Then I'll have to click at the beginning of the next sentence and press the play icon again. I can also choose to turn on or off continuous reading. So no matter what you have selected within the read by section, continuous reading will continuously read through that document until it reaches the very end of the document. So some students may wish to turn this off. I'll just draw your attention to this next section, which is speech highlighting. So this is the section that controls the colours that highlight the text as it is being read aloud by the text reader. We can select any of these alternative colours within the list. So for example, if I select violet on bright green, you can see that this now appears within the text box. A little tip here is that once you have selected one of these from the drop-down list, you can then use the arrow keys to flick through, and you'll see an example of the text underneath. So this is just an easier way for students to be able to pick their preferred settings. Once you've made your adjustments and you're happy with them, press the X to close the settings menu, and these settings will be saved. I'll just minimize this Word document. And now we're going to look at PDF documents. So obviously when it comes to exams, you won't be using Word documents as the exam paper cannot be editable. So they must be PDF documents. So to open any PDF or exam paper, you will use the PDF reader on the toolbar, which you can see is the little page with the PDF. sign written on it. If I click on this icon, it will prompt us to search within our files for the exam paper. So I will open this question paper that I have on file. And you can see that this opens within our PDF reader. So this is an English language paper. And if I scroll down to this section, I can maximize this on my screen obviously as well. So automatically this little icon will be turned on. You can see it's underlined in purple, which means it is turned on. So this feature is called click to speak. So this means that if I click on any of the text, it will be read aloud for me.
Read Source 1. Children are sent to school too young in the UK by Deborah Orr. 1. What do you understand from the article about the issues of children and starting school? 8 marks. 0 to M.
And I'll just press stop there. So you can see that when you're using click and speak, it will continuously read through the document or the PDF file. If I turn this off, this means that anything I click on won't automatically be read aloud, but I can click on this word and then use the play icon.
Read Source 1. Children are sent to school too young in the UK by Deborah Orr. 1. What do you...
And then I can use the pause and stop functions to be able to stop that text being read aloud as well. When you don't have click and speak selected, the speech settings that you have set up within the settings menu that we looked at previously, whether that is read by sentence or read by paragraph, and the continuous reading will all translate onto the play icon here when you're reading a PDF. So if the exam paper has an extract, so for example, an English language exam like this, where students may need to read through a paragraph and then answer questions on it, then to complete this exam paper, you will need to open 2 PDFs. Now this is really, really easy within the latest version of Read&Write for Windows. So you can do this just by clicking on the PDF reader icon again in the toolbar. This will again prompt you to search for the location within your files. And you can open that again. Again, now automatically click and speak will be selected. So you just need to make the student aware that if they don't want to use click and speak, they need to turn that off just by clicking on the icon. So the student is then able to read through this exam paper as well. So this is the extract section, which really actually wouldn't be allowed to be read aloud if you were using human readers in exams. They would have to skip out on this entire section of the exam paper. So by using a computer reader, you're giving them all of that support throughout their entire English language exam and any exams that do require reading through this extract.
There's a huge difference between the way children are taught in Britain and the way they are taught in the rest of Europe.
So the student can have both of these open maximized on their screen and flick between the 2 of them using this icon at the bottom of the screen, or you can move these around on your screen and change the size of the pages just with the arrows, just as you would with any other program. So you can choose to have those alongside each other so you can easily skip between the 2. Again, that all comes down to just students' personal preference. So the use of coloured overlays while reading can mitigate a range of visual perceptual problems, often collectively referred to as Mears-Irlen syndrome, which is particularly prevalent in students with dyslexia. Our screen masking feature applies a coloured overlay to the screen to make text on a computer screen easier for your students to read. To turn the screen masking feature on or off, simply click on the screen masking icon. So I'm just going to click into my screen masking settings here. So again, settings menu on the right hand side and show more settings. And then on the left hand side, we can click into the screen masking tool. So we're going to go for tint my whole screen. And you can see that this coloured overlay has now been applied to my whole screen. We can see that this pale blue colour has been applied. And if we click on the colour box here, we can choose anything from the basic colour palette. For example, if I choose yellow, you can see that now this yellow tint has been applied. As an additional adjustment, we can increase or decrease the opacity of that overlay as well. However, if any of your students have been tested specifically for Mears-Irlen syndrome and have been given a specific RGB number, you can click into the Advanced Colour Palette and enter that specific RGB number beside the red, green and blue values, or you can use these arrows or the sliders to find your desired colour. So you can see that very specific colour has now been applied. It doesn't normally make that noise. That's the first time I've ever heard that. So we'll just turn that feature off. But you can use those sliders to choose that specific RGB number. You can turn the screen masking tool on or off easily by clicking this little off switch here, or by clicking the main icon on your toolbar. We can jump quickly into the screen masking settings as well, using this little cog. And that will take you directly into the screen masking section of the settings menu. So as I mentioned earlier, during the 90 minutes prior to the exam, you will need to scan the exam paper using Read&Write to make sure that it is fully accessible. You may receive a hard copy of the exam paper in the post, or you may receive it as a PDF file. I'm just going to exit out of these two PDFs now and show you the scanning feature, which is this little flatbed scanner, it looks like, on your toolbar. So if I click that, the scanning pop-up window will appear. So within the scanning window, we have the option to scan from device or to scan from file. So if you receive a hard copy of the paper in the post, then you can click on the scanning icon and choose Scan from Device. You'll then attach your flatbed scanner, select Make Me a PDF, select multiple pages, and then perform your scan. If you receive a PDF copy of the paper, you would still need to use the scanning feature within Read&Write just to make sure that the entire paper is fully accessible. So you would select Scan from File, select the file, and you would select the exam paper from your secure location and then perform your scan. Always select Make Me a PDF when you're scanning exam papers, as we wouldn't want the paper to become accessible. If you had selected Microsoft Word, then the paper would be editable. So you just always need to make sure that you're scanning to a PDF file. Okay, so that covers all of the features that can be used in exams and in the preparation of exams. So now we'll have a look at exam mode. So exam mode can be set up straight away from the Read and Write settings menu. There's no additional program or install required when it comes to exams. So to access this, a teacher or admin will go to the Read and Write settings menu, click Show More Settings, and this will again open the full settings menu. So the section that I'd like to draw your attention to is this little Find a Settings box. So for any students, they would use this box, for example, if they wanted to change the highlighting colours, but they weren't sure where to find that within the settings. They can search highlighting, and this will bring up any options regarding highlighting. But when it comes to exams and what students don't know about this little panel here, is that if you type in admin settings, this will ask you for the administrator password. So this will give you access, as long as you know the password, this will give you access to a lockdown section of the Read and Write toolbar. The very first time that you set up exam mode, you'll be asked to create that password and confirm it. So it's a good idea just to make sure that you remember that password that you set up the very first time. So we're going to have a look at just exam mode first, and then we'll have a look at advanced exam mode. So with exam mode, the settings will only apply to the local computer or Windows user that's currently logged on. So you would run Read and Write as the student taking the exam, and click on the settings menu, type in admin settings and enter your password. Once logged on to the administrator settings, you would just simply click select your features, and you would choose all of the features that you would like to have enabled on the student's toolbar during their exam. So the features that you have selected will appear in a purple circle. So you can see here the circled features are text to speech, so play, pause, stop, rewind and fast forward. The screen mask settings and the PDF reader. Once you have selected your features, you can simply toggle on exam mode to start now. And you can see that once you close the settings menu, Read and Write is fully set up in exam mode here. And this is how exam mode looks for the student. So they will only have access to the approved features on the toolbar, text to speech, screen mask and the PDF reader. In addition to this, if I click into the settings menu, they will have access to some additional options here. So they can still change the voice. While exam mode is turned on, they can increase and decrease the speed and pitch and test the voice as well. They can turn on and off continuous reading, and they can change this to read by sentence, for example. If they try to show more settings, it will ask them for the administrator password, which of course they won't have. So that's how to set up exam mode and use exam mode for an individual user. I'll just turn that off again now. Click into settings, show more settings, and enter your password. Then we just turn off exam mode just by clicking on that little toggle again. So it is greyed out there. And you can see that the full toolbar has now been restored. So now we'll have a look at how to use advanced exam mode. So this setting will allow you to apply exam mode settings to multiple users or computers on your network, and also to select a date range for exam mode to automatically be enabled and disabled. So again, I'll just enter, well, I've already gained access to this section, but you would just enter in admin settings and enter your password again. And now we'll click Get Started on Advanced Exam Mode. So if you've set up Read and Write on your network with user settings stored in a central folder, you'll see a list like this of all of your Read and Write users. Select which users you'd like to apply exam mode to. I'll go through the top 3 of these 9 users. And then click Next. You can also search for your users as well. So just as a quick note here, if your Read and Write user settings are stored locally rather than on your network, you won't see the previous option with the users in a list. However, you will be able to deploy exam mode across the network or to exam computers at a later stage. So again, you will select the features that you would like to have enabled on the student's toolbar and click Next. This is a section that you can choose a date range. So you can this will just bring up your calendar. So you could select the 3rd of November to the to the 6th of November, for example, and you can see that that will be applied between those dates. So if you choose yes here, exam mode will be immediately enabled and will remain turned on until you manually go in and turn it off. So if you choose no, then you would select the date range here for exam mode to run. It will run through the duration of the start date until 11:59:59 p.m. on the end date. I'm going to choose to apply exam mode now and then click Next. So you can also choose to apply these exam mode settings to multiple computers at this stage. So if I select yes, that I would like to use these exam settings on other PCs, you can see that as soon as I click yes here, it lets me know that a file called examsettings.xml will be created within my documents. This can then be deployed to your exam PCs. So you can use your standard deployment methods that your IT team uses, such as SCCM, for example. If your exam computers are used by students outside of exams and you're deploying this file, it's a good idea to select the date range in the previous screen so that exam mode is automatically turned off. I'll select no because I'm not going to deploy to any other computers today, and then click Next. So this is your summary screen. So you can review your selections and go back if you want to make any changes. But once you're happy with your settings, you can click Finish. Now, I had chosen myself in the list of users once I was going through the options there. So you can see that again, exam mode has been enabled on my computer. So again, this is how exam mode will look for the student. The student will only have access to the exam approved features on the toolbar. And if they click into the settings menu, they will only have access to those settings that we looked at earlier. So the voice selection, pitch, speed, and the continuous reading options. The toolbar will also say exam mode at the top of the screen so that the user knows that exam mode is currently enabled. I'll just turn that off again. Enter my password. And now I have disabled exam mode. And I can close down the Read and Write settings menu. So that concludes today's webinar. I hope that you find that beneficial today and that it's given you a good idea of how to set up Read and Write for exams and also how it can be used within exams as well. As I said, I'm happy to hang around for about 10 minutes or so, so if you have any questions at all, please do feel free to ask. My details are currently on your screen, so you can see my email address and phone number there. So if anything pops into your head after today, do feel free to contact me via the email address or number on your screen, and I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining the webinar today. I hope that you find that beneficial. Just another quick note as well. Today's webinar has been recorded, and I'll get that recording converted and sent out to you for your reference tomorrow. So please do feel free to pass that on to any of your colleagues as well that you think would be interested. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining me today, and I hope to see you at future webinars.